California has a housing problem, and it's worse than you think. Right now, only 15% of households in the state can actually afford to buy a home. That means 85% of people are stuck renting. But here's where it gets interesting. In most of the United States, buying a home costs less than renting. In 57% of US counties, owning is the smarter financial choice. But not in California. In Orange County, you'd need to spend 104% of your typical income just to own a home. Let that sink in. That's more than everything you earn. And renting? That still takes 72% of your paycheck. In Los Angeles, rent alone consumes 65% of the average wage. So everyone's forced into the rental market. And that market is going absolutely crazy in some parts of the state. Make sure to subscribe to HouseLine USA for more market updates like this. Take San Francisco. The AI boom brought thousands of tech workers to the city. Now they're all fighting for the same apartments. One property in Pacific Heights was listed for $12,000 a month. It was rented for $14,500 within 24 hours. In North Beach, rents jumped 79% in just 1 year. Russian Hill? Same thing. 3-bedroom apartments now go for $12,500 a month. California is missing 3 million housing units. That's 20 to 30% of all the housing that should exist. And while tech money floods San Francisco, frustrated home sellers across the state are becoming landlords because they can't find buyers. The rental market isn't just hiking, it's splitting into completely different realities depending on where you live. And the reasons why will surprise you. California renters pay $2,800 a month on average. That's 90% higher than the rest of the United States. The state ranks second in the nation for the highest rents. Only Hawaii costs more. But the numbers don't tell the whole story, because California isn't one rental market. It's dozens of different markets all pretending to be the same state. Let's look at the big picture first. Across America, buying a home is cheaper than renting in most places. More than half of all US counties favor homeowners. In the Midwest, 81% of counties make buying a better deal. Even in the southern United States, it's 66%. Then there's the West. Only 17% of Western counties make buying more affordable than renting. California pulls that number down hard. Orange County shows how extreme it gets. To buy a home there, you need 104% of a typical wage. That's impossible math. You'd need to earn more than you actually earn. Renting takes 72% of your income. Still brutal, but at least it's possible. Los Angeles County isn't much better. Renting takes 65% of the average wage. San Francisco, Alameda County, Monterey County, they all tell the same story. Housing costs eat up most of what people earn. Now here's what makes this year so critical. While the statewide average only climbed 0.8%, that number hides what's really happening. Because in the markets that matter most, rents are increasing like never before. San Francisco exploded. Some neighborhoods saw rent jump 79% in 1 year. North Beach, Russian Hill, the Mission District, all posting double-digit increases. This isn't slow growth. This is a rental crisis in fast forward, and it's spreading. San Mateo saw 7% increases. Berkeley jumped significantly. The entire Bay Area is feeling the pressure. Tech money is pushing rents higher faster than most people can keep up. So what's driving this frenzy? Let's look at ground zero. San Francisco is experiencing something nobody predicted. The AI boom brought it back from the dead. During COVID-19, the city emptied. Rents dropped. Apartments sat vacant. Then artificial intelligence changed everything. AI companies flooded in. OpenAI, Anthropic, dozens of startups. They brought thousands of high-paid employees, and those employees all need housing, but the supply never recovered. One leasing agent managed 80 rental listings during COVID. By March 2025, he had fewer than 15. Now he has just a handful. The numbers tell the story. In North Beach, 2-bedroom apartments jumped 79% in 1 year. They now cost $5,475 a month. Russian Hill saw the same thing. 3 bedrooms there hit $12,500. Also a 79% increase. Here's a real example. A 2-bedroom in Pacific Heights is listed for $12,000 a month. It was rented within 24 hours for $14,500. The tenant offered $2,500 more just to beat the competition. Showings turned into bidding wars. 20 or 30 people show up. They bring tenant resumes. They offer to pay 3 months up front. Some make offers before even seeing the apartment. That's the reality in San Francisco right now. But this isn't just about AI workers with too much money. There's a deeper problem that's been building for decades. California is missing 3 million housing units. That's not an estimate, that's the actual shortage. Think about it this way. The state has 14 million housing units total. It needs 17 million. That missing 20 to 30% is why rents keep climbing. This didn't happen overnight. California has been underbuilding for decades. From 2011 to 2016, the state added 5 new residents for every 1 new housing unit built. 5 people competing for 1 home. The math never worked. The Bay Area shows it best. Between 2012 and 2017, cities there created 400,000 new jobs. Good jobs, tech jobs, jobs that paid well, but they only issued 60,000 housing permits. So 400,000 people needed places to live. Only 60,000 new homes were built. Where did everyone else go? They competed for existing housing. They drove up prices. They pushed out lower-income renters. This pattern repeats across California. Jobs grow. Housing doesn't. Rents rise. California needs 180,000 new housing units every year just to keep up. That's the baseline, just to stay even with population growth and demand. Last year, the state built 80,000 to 140,000 units. That's less than what's needed. The gap keeps growing. Los Angeles alone is short 270,000 affordable units right now. Not total units, just affordable ones, the kind working families can actually pay for. Every year, California falls further behind. Every year, the shortage gets worse. And every year, that shortage pushes rents higher. This is why limiting rent increases only solves part of the problem. You can cap how much rent goes up, but you can't force people to build housing they don't want to build. And now, a new force is entering the market that nobody saw coming. Something unexpected started happening in 2025. Home sellers couldn't find buyers, so they became landlords instead. It's happening across the country, but it matters most where big investors dominate. Places like Atlanta, Phoenix, Dallas, Houston, Tampa, and Charlotte. These are cities where companies like Invitation Homes and American Homes 4 rent-own tens of thousands of rental properties. Now they have competition they didn't plan for. Here's a real example. A man in Dallas got a new job in Houston. He listed his house in March. Nobody bought it. People were waiting for better mortgage rates, so he rented it out instead. The rent doesn't even cover his mortgage, but he can't sell. He's stuck being a landlord. This is happening across the Sun Belt. Inventory jumped over 20% in these markets. Many sellers gave up and listed for rent instead. The big rental companies are responding. They're now selling more homes than they're buying and shifting to build-to-rent projects instead. But here's what matters for renters. These accidental landlords add supply to the market. More rental options mean less pricing power for the big players. Those companies were getting 4 to 5% rent increases every year. With more competition, they might only get 1 to 2%. That's not huge, but it's something. So if market forces are starting to help in some areas, what about California? Does the state have any protections in place? California passed a law in 2019 to control rent increases. It's called AB 1482. Here's how it works. Landlords can raise rent by 5% plus inflation, but never more than 10% total in 1 year. For 2025 to 2026, the maximum increase is 6.3%. In Los Angeles, it's 8%. The law also says landlords can only raise rent twice in 12 months. Tenants get protection from eviction without cause. But here's the catch. Not everyone is protected. New buildings are exempt for 15 years, so anything built after 2010 has no rent control. Single-family homes owned by individuals are exempt too. So are condos in some cases. This explains why San Francisco can see 79% rent increases in some neighborhoods. Those buildings aren't covered, and landlords can charge whatever the market will pay. Over 3 million California households already spend more than 30% of their income on rent. Another 1.5 million spend more than 50%, half their income just for housing. About 25% of Californians live in cities with local rent control on top of state law. Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Jose, and their rules are often stricter. But rent control only helps people who already have apartments. It doesn't create new housing. It doesn't solve the supply shortage. It just limits how fast rents can climb for some renters. And that's the problem nobody wants to talk about. So voters got a chance to decide. Should California go all in on rent control or bet on a different solution? In November 2024, Proposition 33 would have expanded rent control statewide. It would have repealed Costa-Hawkins, a 1995 law that stopped cities from controlling rent on newer buildings and single-family homes. If it passed, cities could put rent control on any property: new apartments, old apartments, houses, condos, everything. Tenant groups pushed hard for it. The AIDS Healthcare Foundation spent massive amounts of money. They said renters needed relief now, that 55% of Californians are rent-burdened and need protection. On the other side stood landlords, realtors, and Gavin Newsom. They said rent control would kill new housing development, that it would make the shortage worse, and that California needs more supply, not more restrictions. The campaign cost over $150 million. The opposition outspent supporters by more than 2 to 1. When the votes came in, 62% said no. Only 40% voted yes. This was the third time voters rejected expanded rent control. It failed in 2018, it failed in 2020, and it failed again in 2024. Here's what that tells us. Californians hate high rent, but they don't trust rent control to fix it. They're more afraid of killing new construction than they are of price increases. The market won. Supply-side thinking won, and rents kept climbing. So if voters won't expand rent control and you can't afford to buy, where does that leave California renters? Let's look at the numbers that explain why so many people feel trapped. Let's talk about the math that traps California renters. To buy a median-priced home in California, you need to earn between $221,000 and $237,000 a year. That's the income required to qualify for a mortgage. The median household income in California is $96,500. See the problem? You'd need to earn more than double what most people make. Even for a bottom-tier home, the cheapest 35% of the market, you still need $136,000 to $145,000 a year. That's still about 40% more than the median income. Here's the monthly reality. Buying a 2-bedroom home costs about $2,010 more per month than renting the same size place. That's an extra $24,000 a year. So renting makes more sense, right? Not really. Because across most of the United States, buying is actually cheaper than renting. In 57% of U.S. counties, owning costs less than renting long-term. But in Western states, only 17% of counties favor buying. California pulls that number way down. And here's what makes it worse. Home prices rose faster than rents in 69% of counties last year. That gap keeps growing. The longer you rent, the further homeownership moves out of reach. There's also something called the lock-in effect. About 80% of California homeowners have mortgage rates under 5%. Current rates sit around 6.25%. So nobody wants to sell. They'd lose their low rate. This keeps inventory tight. Fewer homes for sale mean higher prices. Higher prices mean more people forced to rent. More renters mean landlords can charge more. It's a cycle that feeds itself, and nobody knows how to break it. So with all these forces at play, where is California's rental market actually headed? The answer depends entirely on where you live. California's rental market is splitting into two completely different worlds. San Francisco and the Bay Area are on fire. The AI boom isn't slowing down. More companies are moving in. Supply keeps shrinking. Rents keep climbing. This trend has momentum through 2026 and beyond. But look at Los Angeles. Nearly 68% of renters there are considering leaving the city. They're priced out. They're looking at other states or cheaper California cities. The state added 232,000 new residents in 2024. Population growth is back. But California built only 80,000 to 140,000 housing units last year. It needs 180,000 every year just to break even. The shortage keeps growing. Tech hubs like San Francisco will see continued pressure. Expect more bidding wars. More six-figure earners are willing to pay whatever it takes. Secondary markets might see relief. The accidental landlords add supply in places like the Inland Empire and the Central Valley. That could slow rent growth there. Southern California faces uncertainty. The wildfires destroyed thousands of homes. Rebuilding takes years. Some people won't return. Others will compete for whatever's available. One thing is certain: the gap between expensive and affordable California keeps widening. Where you choose to rent matters more than ever, because location isn't just affecting your commute anymore. It's determining whether you can afford to live there at all. So where does this leave California renters? The state is caught in an impossible trap. Buying a home requires double the median income. Renting takes up to 65% of your paycheck, and the shortage of 3 million housing units isn't getting fixed anytime soon. Voters rejected rent control expansion 3 times. They're betting on supply, not restrictions. But California needs 180,000 new units a year, and it's building only half that. San Francisco shows what happens when tech money floods limited housing. Bidding wars, rents jumping 79% in 1 year, 6-figure earners living in closet-sized Airbnbs. And it's spreading. The Bay Area feels it. Irvine feels it. Any city with high-paying jobs and a tight supply will follow the same path. Here's what to watch. If AI companies keep expanding in the Bay Area, expect rents there to keep climbing. If more Californians leave for other states, pressure might ease in secondary markets. If construction picks up, relief could come in a few years. But none of that helps renters today. Right now, you're either in a market experiencing explosive growth, or you're watching and wondering when it hits your area. California's rental market isn't just hiking, it's fragmenting into dozens of different realities. Understanding which reality you're in is the difference between barely surviving and planning your escape. The rent isn't just too high, it's becoming impossible. And nobody has a solution that works for everyone.